Gabriela Baestro.
Here.
Emmanuel Cruz.
Here.
Alex Goitia.
Here.
Leslie Garcia.
Here.
Mark Jimenez.
Here.
Shirley Rivera.
Here.
Jordan Ashley Salcedo.
Here.
Lynn Tran.
Here.
Sylvester Lopez.
Here.
Tai Wen. Absent. Eric Thomas. Absent. Roxana Barrera.
Present.
Andres Coronel. Absent. Jose Marquez Cuevas.
Here.
Kevin Denham.
Here.
Vanessa Malesio. Vanessa absent. Halen Salas. Absent. Jessica Santos.
Present.
Joshua Shield.
Present.
Gilbert Sanchez.
Present.
We have quorum.
Excellent. All right. So on to our agenda. Welcome to the first Young Leaders Advisory Council here at South Coast Air Quality Management District. My name is Dr. Cecil Johnson. I am the Deputy Executive Officer for our Community Engagement and Air Programs Division. And I can truly say that I am very honored and very, very, very pleased to be in your presence today. For a couple reasons. One, I bruised my toe last night and I just came from the urgent care. I'm fine. I'm fine. But that's how much I really needed to be in space with you all, right? I needed to be, Heaven and I were walking in and I was just like a sense of whew, to be in space with folks to do this work. And so I'm very honored to be here with you all today to talk about the things that are important to you. To talk about the items and issues involving your communities that you as young leaders can offer cultural capital on. You have the knowledge, the experience, you're at the intersection of many different things, and we need that perspective now more so than ever. So as you go back and look up the research and you look up websites and you look up information and it's just gone, right? And so critical to addressing any kind of injustice is education. And so by you all being on this Young Leaders Advisory Council, you're exactly doing that. You are giving us your knowledge, your skills, your competencies, so that we as South Coast Air Quality Management District can do our job better, which is to ensure public health, ensure an equitable treatment for all of our communities and to enhance public education. And that is truly what you all are doing. So super excited that you all have joined us. It's a process to be able to be appointed, but we're very grateful to our governing board chair, retired Senator Vanessa Delgado, who appointed you all under the advisement of the advisory committee and the board of governing board. So super, 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 super happy to be with you. And so we are going to have the staff who helped you to get here today introduce themselves and their roles. And so I'm going to go over to my left and have Walter introduce himself.
Great, thank you, Cecil. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Walter. I'm the director overseeing community engagement and air programs. Primarily, my task is to oversee what we call our AB 617 program, more or less a community engagement program focusing specifically on emissions and minimizing exposure to toxic air contaminants. I've been with this division for roughly 4 months now, but I am not new to the agency. It's been over 25 years for me. So I'm very happy to be in the space with everyone. And with that said, I'll pass it over to you.
Oh, no, we're doing the staff.
Oh, I'm sorry, Steph. Please. Hold on.
Good afternoon. My name is Paula Service and I'm the Senior Office Assistant for Community Engagement and Air Programs.
I'm Carolina Vargas, Staff Assistant.
Hey everyone, I'm Cassandra Johnson, but I go by Cassie. I am a Senior Public Affairs Specialist with Community Engagement and AIR programs. Primarily, my role has been to assist in developing community engagement and educational initiatives for the division. I'll pass it over to our newest member.
Hello, everybody. I am Alexis Thrower, and I'll be working alongside Cassie as a Senior Public Affairs Specialist, and I'm really excited to be here.
Good afternoon, everyone. Josephine Lee, Senior Deputy District Counsel with the agency.
Hi, all. I'm Heather. I'm the Senior Administrative Secretary for Dr. Cesar Hurd Johnson and your main point of contact.
Excellent. So a review of our agenda today, I got all staff, right? Our review of our agenda is we're going to, do a review of the agenda right now. We're going to give you an overview of our community engagement and AIR programs. We're going to give you a space to introduce yourself. We have both new and returning members. I'm thrilled that we have, I believe it's 9 returning YLAC members from last year, which is unprecedented. So that's awesome. But we also have some new people as well. And so we want to get to know you a little bit more and what you're passionate about and what you want to achieve while you're on this group. For our last meeting, we will be reviewing and approving the minutes from our November 24th or November 2024 meeting. We will be doing an annual report to the governing board, administrative committee, and then our governing board. So that's attached, I believe, to this agenda. So we'll discuss that. And if Heather reminded me, after each one, we do public comment, correct? Gotcha. And then our discussion items, we have Sherry on the line, who is our principal deputy district counsel. Hi, Sherry. Who's going to kind of go over the Brown Act compliance. And so that's some guidelines for how we interact with each other as kind of member of the advisory council for our governing board and our agency. We also just want to take time to recognize those members who were on the YLAC last year of 2024. There was a reimagining of what YLAC was. And so Roxana, right there, Roxana, yeah, thank you. Roxana was here back in the day. And so she stayed, and I'm very happy you stayed because you kind of sort of are my tether to making sure we get things right. And so when you go, I go. So you better not leave. Okay, excellent. So we'll do some member recognition. Heather and Cassie's going to kind of walk us through the materials and expenses claim process just to make sure we're not asking y'all to volunteer your time. And so we want to make sure that we get all the materials and expense claims done correctly so we can get you all paid. And so we want to share some resources with you all as well that we share with members of our YLAC group. We'll have time for community spotlight, and that's an opportunity for you all to elevate any and spotlight any issue, concerns, or events within your own specific communities. So you should know that as we meet quarterly, there is always time for you all to share what's going on in your communities, and so this will be the time to do that. So if you know of events, of activities, just making sure that we can elevate them, that would be that time for that. And then we're going to end our meeting with or at least the formal agenda with goals and requests for the 2025 committee. So that's for us to say what we want to accomplish. So what do you all want? Knowing that what our charter and what we've been tasked with, what are goals that you all would like to achieve for the 2025 committee? And then other matters will be other business that will come up. So that's kind of sort of our agenda for the day. And then we end everything with public comment on any of the agenda items that haven't been spoken about. I think that's pretty much, yeah. All right. So if we are good, do I do public comment about our introduction?
Actually,
The item, yes, but I think Walter wanted.
yeah, absolutely. Before we move on to the next agenda item, just wanted to recognize that there are 3 YLAC members that are participating remotely. We just wanted to make sure that they disclose if there are any other members or any other individuals 18 years of age or older in those locations as part of the process. So, particularly looking at, I believe, Stephanie, Shirley, and Roxanne, are there any other members with you at your location?
No.
Great. Stephanie?
Shirley.
Oh, Shirley, I'm sorry. Shirley?
I'm currently at a coffee shop, but I have my earphones on.
Perfect. Thank you. Great. Is that it?
Stephanie, isn't there Stephanie?
Oh,
Oh, no. No,
great. Thank you.
All right, excellent.
Sorry, Stephanie, if you can turn on your camera.
Stephanie's not a member.
Oh, sorry, never mind.
Oh, Stephanie isn't a member? Okay, gotcha. Cool. Oh, all right, thank you. Oh,
Great.
member of the public, they even love it. All right.
Thank you, everyone.
So, and how do I phrase it, Josie? Is there any public comment?
Sure, yes, you open it up.
All right, so I'm opening up for any public comment about agenda item number 1, which is the welcome staff introductions and agenda overview.
No public comment in the room?
No hands raised.
All right, next, awesome. All right, just to give you a quick overview of the Office of Community Engagement and AIR programs. So I arrived here at South Coast AQMD approximately 4 years ago. Our Office of Diversity, Equity, Inclusion was started in a direct response to the murder of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor. Members of the AQMD staff had really talked about diversity, equity, inclusion issues from a volunteer lens. They were working in their jobs here at South Coast, but would see issues and concerns, increased wanting to interact, more community engagement, and didn't see that happening. And so they tasked our executive officer, Wayne Nastry, honestly, to do something. And so what they did was to create a deputy executive officer for diversity, equity, inclusion position. So I was started off as an office of 1. I started in January 2021, and then proceeded to quickly become an office of 4 by November of 2021. And then in 2023, I assumed responsibility for our community AIR programs. And so our community AIR programs is what people might hear of as the AB 617 program. It's funding that we get from the state of California to basically create initiatives to reduce air pollutions in communities that have been disproportionately impacted by air pollution. And so I assumed a team of about 26 when that took on. And so that's where we have been for the past 2 years. So our division is small but mighty, and then one of the newer divisions, but it truly was born out of a social injustice movement. As I imagine you all are quite aware that the pendulum has swung back somewhat significantly against diversity, equity, inclusion. I say that out loud because I'm saying, I don't say DEI, I say diversity, equity, inclusion. And so it's swung since severely back the opposite direction. As I'm sure you're all aware, certain federal pushbacks and certainly societal pushback on diversity, equity, inclusion. So I'm very pleased that there still remains a commitment to me, my position, my team, what we stand for at this agency. And so we are not having any issues or worrying about budget or worrying about job security. We are solid, we are tight. Our job has always been to increase the competency of the staff who are working at this agency. That is my job. My job was to never take anyone's job away. There's no quotas associated with my responsibilities. It was simply to do the job. People need to understand the communities of which they are a part. So when you think about the population of this kind of Great Basin that we live in, and all these counties that we represent, it doesn't look like it did 40 years ago, 30 years ago, 20 years ago, 10 years ago. But yet the education of the people who work here is almost the same, because they're getting the same information that they're getting in the colleges that they have gotten before. And so when I first arrived about 4 years ago, I realized that there are a lot of people who didn't know about the communities in which we're supposed to do service for. So one of the things that we've done, and we'll talk about a little bit more, is you see that book, The Color of Law. That book talks about redlining. How many of y'all have heard of redlining before? Okay, great to hear that. I will tell you that there were a significant number of employees here at this agency who had no idea what redlining was. And that was shocking to me because I'm like, but that's our job, like, right? And how is it? Well, if you think about it, going back, they didn't get that information in their college classes. They didn't get that in their master's programs. They didn't get that in their own experiences in the communities in which they led. And so to be able to do this work, they needed to know that people were put in these communities sometimes on purpose. People were put in these communities with the intention that it would impact their health. They were put in these communities by police in collusion with teachers, in collusion with real estate agents. And so it was kind of sort of a very mindful and purposeful effort. And so The Color of Law was the very first book that we presented to our agency as a book club, because we wanted everyone to be able to read it, to be able to truly understand the history, his story, and her story, right? So how people came to be. And so it's because of that is why my job and the job of my team and what we do is so critical, is to educate people about what has happened and why people are in these spaces and places, and maybe why they don't trust us so much sometimes, right? I'll hear oftentimes people say, well, you know, in the name of science. And I was like, in the name of science, much harm has been done to a lot of bodies. And so science isn't it for people, right? That's why you can't say religion is, not everybody believes in the same thing. So we can't just say that that's something that people believe in. So why we do this and why we need you is to be able to give us those perspectives, right? So it's cultural capital. You give us knowledge, you give us awareness, so that we're able to do our jobs better, which is why this community, this council is still critical and isn't going anywhere as well, right? So we still need this information. And like I said before, the pendulum swings back. I don't know, many of y'all as young leaders, that means that y'all were born at a time that was way after me. But DEI has been called other things, right? It's been called other things for many throughout the year. So we just got to make sure that we're doing this work. We hear from you all, and we make it so that we are able to get to the mission, which is cleaner air for all. So that's just a little bit about what we hear and a little bit about the reality that's facing us right now with the backlash, the federal kind of guidelines against DEI. And so, yeah. So is there any public comment? Any public comment?
None in the room.
No hands raised.
All right, excellent. All right. So now that I kind of laid the foundation for you all and why we're here, can we hear from you all? Can you all tell us a little bit about yourself? If you're a new or returning member, maybe share why you joined the group. That would be awesome. And so we'll just go around the table. Am I feeling to the right or am I feeling to the left? Well, I mentioned before I have the same bandana, so we'll start over here. Thank you very much.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Jessica Santos. I have a background in engineering and public health, and I have been working in the clean air space ever since I arrived in Southern California about 6 years ago. I like to spend my time educating people in various languages on what we can do to help protect our indoor and outdoor air, and I really enjoy gardening.
Hi everyone, my name is Emmanuel Cruz. I work at Chirla, which is a nonprofit that services the immigrant population in the city. I've done a lot of outreach programs, a lot of outreach work, and the reason why I like participating in my community is because my community is very small, and often it's very neglected. It's Cudahy, it's like the smallest city west of the Mississippi, and this agency, I've seen it in the past in Cudahy, and that's why I'm here.
Hello, everyone. My name is Silvestre Lopez. I'm from Santa Ana in Orange County. I'm currently department manager for Project Youth OC, a nonprofit that works with at-risk youth. So my role there, I get to talk to a lot of kids, try to educate them, help empower their families as well. A big part of me joining this group was because I wanted to know, quite frankly, more about air quality and be able to give back to my community in that way.
Hi everyone, Jordan Salcido, she, her pronouns. I live in Whittier and I'm part of the LA County Youth Climate Commission. And we've been working for about 2 years on our youth committee. I'm a community organizer and work a lot around climate and racial justice. And I'm also really interested in storytelling. So I love the story element that you brought in. I'm so happy that we're leading with that lens. So thank you so much. And pass it on.
Hi everyone, my name is Mark Jimenez. I currently live in the City of Commerce.
I got my undergrad in biology and I thought I was gonna go into the science field, but life kind of just got the best of me and things shifted. So I currently work in local government and I've always wanted to find a way to kind of pursue my passion in biology. So I was really interested in joining this association group and seeing what I can do or what my experience or what I can learn from here.
What city you say you're from again?
City of Commerce.
Commerce, excellent. Thank you. Welcome.
Hello, I'm Leslie Garcia. I'm from West Covina and I recently finished my master's in climate sciences where I studied dust storms. And I'm currently also working on the Moyer program, which is a state incentive program. And I was interested in joining this committee because I believe education is power and I want to learn from all of you and just give back to the community.
I'm a second year PhD student in environmental science at UCR. I live on campus at UCR, so right next to the freeways. And I study air pollution. In my undergrad, I studied water pollution. And so I'm originally not from here, so I don't want to be a parachute scientist. So I'm trying to be as involved with the community as I can. And I think I've done a pretty good job. So it's kind of why I wanted to join this group. First time at YLAC, but I was an intern last summer and I absolutely loved it. And I think through community input that I've heard about air pollution, just from colleagues, friends, and residents in the area, I think that I could bring a lot of light onto what's going on.
And what's your name again?
Oh, Heaven.
Hey, hello. My name is Joshua Shield. I am a returning member of YLAC. I am currently studying at UCR to complete my bachelor's in environmental sciences. But after that, I am entering the chemical and environmental engineering postgraduate program to conduct research into aspects such as ship emissions and other forms of larger scale industrial emissions. And YLAC is a really important space for me in terms of trying to understand the community perspectives all over the Great Basin, right? We are faced with myriad different issues, and I never want to lose sight of all of the people who are out there who we can help.
Hello, my name is Gilbert Sanchez. I'm a graduate student at UC Riverside studying electrical engineering. I've run a club in sustainability and clean energy club at UCR. So I'm very interested in seeing more renewable energies being used. And I feel joining the YLAC as a new member would allow me to kind of share my ideas of what could be done to reduce emissions within our local communities.
What was your name again?
Gilbert Sanchez.
Gilbert, thank you.
Hi, I'm Lun. I'm a returning YLAC member. I'm from the San Gabriel Valley, but I was born in Vietnam. I'm really interested in composting. I have 4 cats. And I'm currently interning at an environmental nonprofit called Active San Gabriel Valley.
Hi everyone, my name is Gabriella and I'm from the city of Southgate. So I'm also a returning YLAC member. And the reason why I got involved in the first place just because the Southeast is really, historically for air pollution. And so, I believe air quality is a right, like having, air that you can breathe and live in. So, and it affects in a lot of, in other ways in our parts of our lives and our health. So, and I don't think the work is ever really truly done. So it's important to continue to be in these spaces. And so I'm just happy I get to continue to be here. And on my my adult job, my real work that I do is I work for an assembly member, which just happens to represent the cities that I grew up in, the communities I grew up in. So yeah.
Hi everyone, my name is Jose.
This is real work too. It's just the work you may not get paid for.
Oh no, we pay you.
Hi everyone, my name is Jose. I currently reside in Corona, so Riverside County. But I both grew up in Riverside and San Bernardino County, so I'm very familiar with both of those regions. My background in terms of undergraduate was in Latin American studies with politics. And so a lot of my internships were not in those fields. They were more concerned with public health. And I know in the past year, I was doing a fellowship working in doing TB control and communicable diseases. What I currently do now is a quality assurance within behavioral health, so jumping from different parts of public health. But I think for me, I think this is really important. Like a previous member mentioned, I think knowledge is power, and I'm trying to break it down so that my community's members can understand the issues that are happening. But I know like in our regions, in San Bernardino and Riverside, there's just a drastic warehouse boom. And so trying to reduce that just because it is bringing a lot of toxic air and pollutants within our region. So trying to do my part, but yeah.
Hi, everyone. My name is Vanessa Malesio. I am a returning YLAC member. First of all, I do apologize for being late. I got a flat tire on the way here. I'm okay. Yeah, I just had to wait for AAA. It's okay. So as I mentioned, yes, I'm a returning member and I wanted to join initially and still currently just to information share and like share resources and gain new perspectives from like a more technical aspect because I work in community engagement for transit agencies. So when people ask us questions, I want to be able to point them in the right direction to that information. And currently I'm an intern at a local agency, City of Fontana. And then I also work at a library. So I understand like being with people, and that's really what I bring to the table here.
Hi, everyone. My name is Alexander Goitia, he, him. I'm from Huntington Park in Southeast LA. I'm very passionate about just environmental justice. And right now I'm doing a master's in physics, but I'm interested in like energy storage technology and integrating sustainable energy storage into our infrastructure. I work with Communities for a Better Environment, very active organization, and I joined today to just really learn as much as I can. Very eager to. Yeah, thank you.
Excellent. And I believe we have members online. So I'll go ahead and start off with Roxana.
Hi, everybody. My name is Roxana Barrera. I am also a returning YLAC member. I was born in North Hollywood, California, but I was raised in San Bernardino. I first got involved in the community nearly a decade ago, and saying that out loud sounds surreal. Yeah, that sounds insane. Okay, but my passion for improving air quality stems from a deeply personal experience of mine. When my first child was born in 2018 with respiratory issues. And from that moment, I feel like it sparked a fire in me, driving my commitment to fight for a cleaner air and a healthier future for our communities. And now, with the way our world is just falling apart, I feel an even greater, like a greater urgency to fight for my children's future and like, you know, all children's health, safety, and environment that they're growing up in are at stake. And that only strengthens my determination to push for real change. And I also enjoy gardening, to whoever said that.
All right, thank you so much. Good to see you. All right, I believe Shirley.
Yes. Hi, everyone. I'm Shirley Rivera. So sorry I couldn't be there in person. My tire also popped on the way there, and then my key got stuck in the ignition. So that is getting fixed right now. Yeah. But I am currently a creative civic engagement associate at Public Matters. It's a creative studio for civic engagement. A lot of the work that I have been doing for the past decade has been in East LA and around active transportation, and with that has sparked just wanting cleaner air and deserving cleaner air for my community. I grew up, what interested me about joining was that I grew up right next to the 5 freeway. By some sort of miracle, none of my family members have asthma and or any respiratory issues, and so I was a part of like a case study at some point because that is not common. And so that it's seeing that happen in my own community as that we're kind of just it's expected of us to have all of these different diseases because we live here, has sparked just this interest of wanting to better be an advocate for members of my community.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, did I get everybody's introductions? All right, so time for any public comment?
I think I'm missing.
Oh, Stephanie, there's no.
Our membership. So my name is Stephanie.
Come on, talk to me.
I majored in environmental studies, and right now I'm a student studying geographic information systems. And I also want to be part of the space because I think we all want a better air quality. And yeah, I'm a new participant.
And what city are you in?
Bell Gardens.
All right, cool, welcome. Thank you so much. We'll figure out what happened, but thank you so much for being here today.
Okay.
Awesome. All right, so public comment. Any public comment in the room?
In the room.
And then Heather, how about online?
No hands raised.
All right, excellent. See, I'll get to it, Josie, like 5 years from now, I'll be able to get it done. Awesome. All right, so moving on to review and approve minutes. Believe you all were sent a copy of the meeting minutes. And even if you were not present, it is totally legit to be able to review the minutes and ask any clarifying questions. For those of you who were present, you can certainly make any corrections. Do I make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from the November 20th, 24? Can I get a second?
I second.
Second by
Emmanuel.
Emmanuel. Any changes, corrections? Roxy has her hand up.
Yes. So I do see here that where I had requested for YLAC to have more than a year of a term is not on here. I don't know. I don't remember what part it was in that I spoke up for that.
I believe it would have been agenda item number 7. That's when we had started plotting out hypothetical things for this year, I believe.
Thank you, Joshua. Yes. So that's the only thing I think is missing. Well, from my end, from what I was looking at. Because I feel like I talked a lot at the last meeting, so I'm very sorry about that.
You're not. You're not, and I'm mad at you. Okay, so I think that we can note in the meeting with that correction. And so specifically, you wanted to extend the YLAC membership to be beyond a year. And I know that was discussed. I remember discussing it, and it was, sorry, go ahead.
So the way the charter is written, you can participate, it's just an application each year, rather than like a term limit for you, Roxanne.
Gotcha, so clarify. So do you still feel like you want to note that in the meeting minutes? So I feel like we can note that for the meeting minutes, and then it can be clarified that the term limits, you just have to reapply each year.
Yeah, I think
So-
that would be great.
Yeah.
For anybody who looks over the minutes, that information can be there for them.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, so what we're going to add to the meeting minutes is that Roxana asked for there to be an extension of the YLAC membership beyond a year. And then we can note that the charter actually says that one has to reapply each year. So if the request was made and then it was clarified, and that should be the note. All right, so we can make that change. So when you're voting on the minutes, that would include this addition. All right. Any other corrections or additions? All right, can someone make a motion to approve the minutes? Approve. And then that second? Who's seconded? Josh? All right. All right, all those in favor of approving the minutes, please signify by raising your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. I got 17. All those opposed? Any abstentions? All right, motion is approved. Minutes are approved. Excellent, thank you. 1700. All right, with those changes. Okay, annual report. Okay, so we would like for you all to, I believe this was all sent to each of you all when you joined us, and it was approved. But the following is an annual report for last year's Young Leaders Advisory Council. The executive summary reads that the Young Leaders Advisory Council has had a productive year advancing our goals of engaging young adults on air quality, environmental justice, and sustainability issues. Throughout 4 quarterly meetings, YLAC members provided valuable feedback, participated in meaningful discussions, and contributed to South Coast AQMD's community outreach efforts. Our committee members are proud to present this year's accomplishments and outline goals for the coming year. So how this is presented, if memory serves me correct, will be my first time doing it. We present this annual report to the March 2025 Administrative Committee. That is a subsection of governing board members who are responsible for the operations of our agency. And then once it is reviewed by the Administrative Committee, I believe the members of that committee are Senator, retired Senator and Governing Board Chair Vanessa Delgado, Vice Chair Michael Cacciati, Board Member Gideon Krakoff, and I believe it is Board Member McCallan. Is there one more? I believe it was 4. Oh, and then Perez. Right, so, and Governing Board Member Manny Perez. So there's 5 members of that committee, and so we present to them what this group talked about last year. So this is done on an annual basis, and what last year's group, this is what they kind of said, this is what we'd like to elevate to the Administrative Committee. So they get a copy of this report, and I'm not sure if we need to have a member of YLAC be present at that meeting. It is an open meeting, and so certainly people could also offer public comment as well as a member of the public. I'm fairly certain if you wanted to echo any of those comments, but that is kind of sort of what we would do, is to present what we all talked about last year to the governing board. So it's kind of our mission to be transparent and effective and kind of circle back with them. So that's what is attached here. Do anyone have any questions or any comments or concerns about what the group did last year, or anything they'd like to elevate? Tell me your name again for the record so that people.
Lynn.
Lynn? Mm-hmm.
I feel like maybe YLAC members themselves should also be a part of that. You know, speaking to the board and telling them what we've discussed last year.
Mm-hmm. Well, definitely, I know we'll circle back to see if that is something that can happen, because I mean, normally it's just kind of who knows what normal is. Like, this is the first time that we're doing it, so we can absolutely elevate it how we wish. So I think that if folks are willing to accompany the report, I wouldn't turn that as an opportunity, because it's, again, public comment, and you have, I think, up to 3 minutes to be able to speak to agenda items that are on the admin committee. So yeah, we definitely could do that. Thank you. All right, awesome.
Yeah, I really like the mobile air monitoring platform, the little van that we have. I thought that was interesting. I thought that was very engaging. I know for sure when I was younger and I was in the science club, if we had that, that would be very, very luring for people to be involved more.
Y'all did seem to enjoy it, even though it was hot that day. Excellent. I know one thing that if I could, I'm appreciative. One of the reasons why our division took over YLAC last year was, I think, because we had, there was a purposefulness to include young voices. So that's the inclusion part of the diversity, equity, inclusion. That is our division. And so what I noted in the attendance is how many members we had in attendance for each of our members. So one of the things that I'm very proud that you all showed up, because you literally, your presence was a present. And so to not only just have quorum, there were times in which in previous YLACs, they couldn't even vote on the minutes because they didn't have quorum. And so I think that the first meeting that we even had last year with YLAC, I think we were approving, I think, 1.25 years worth of minutes because it just sat for a year. So not only to have people's presence, but to have your level of engagement. So I was really proud to see the numbers for attendance. That was pretty cool. Any other comments on the annual report? Yes, and say your name again for the record so we can.
Oh, yes, Leslie Garcia. I have a question for past members. So I see for the proposed goals for 2025, it says participate in targeted events. And I just wanted to ask, like, what were some examples of that happened in 2024 possibly? Like, what was your favorite event?
So any returning members want to speak to any youth targeted events that you might have participated in 2024 so that it is a goal for 2025?
I think it was a reference to us wanting to see more engagement. So like some of us work for local governments or within the community. So we want to maybe table and just be present and just, show up, and hear what people's concerns are. Sometimes it's just literally showing up and people being able to engage us with questions or concerns.
And I would say that that is across the board, if my memory serves me correct. Wow, we have that same issue. We have that same issue. And so for me, there was an attempt to erase some of the divisiveness that you don't understand what it's like to be in my hood because you don't have the port, or you don't understand what it's like in my neighborhood because you don't have warehouses. It's like, it turns out a lot of areas have them. And so I think this was an effort for people to be able to see literally how the others are living. So for us, it was making sure that we have a community spotlight, that we're sharing information in the community so that people can participate. Thank you for that question.
And there was community groups that presented to us, right? So they came and they would tell us what they were working on in their communities. And I don't know, it's just great to know these connections and then share it with people in your network. So it's a network.
Alrighty. Okay. So can I get a motion to approve the annual report?
I motion.
Our motion, Emmanuel, opens. We can get a second. Roxy is the second. Oh, we do. Okay, sorry. All right. Any public comment before we approve things, the annual report? Any public comment in the room?
No hands raised online.
All right, excellent. All right, so can I get a motion to approve the annual report? I got a motion from Emmanuel and then seconded by Roxy. All those in favor of approving the annual report?
We'll do a roll call for
thank you.
approval. So Gabriela Ballestos?
Yes.
Emmanuel Cruz?
Yes.
Alexander Gautier?
Yeah.
Leslie Garcia?
Yes.
Mark Jimenez?
Yes.
Shirley Rivera?
Yes.
Jordan Salcedo?
Yes.
Leland Chan?
Yes.
Sylvester Lopez?
Yes.
Roxana Barrera?
Aye.
Jose Marquez Cuevas?
Yes.
Heaven Denham?
Yes.
Vanessa Malesio?
Aye.
Jessica Santos?
Aye.
Joshua Shield?
Yes.
Gilbert Sanchez?
Yeah.
All members present approved, 4 members absent.
And did you get the people online as well? Okay, perfect. All right. Excellent. All right, thank you. And so what we will find out and communicate to you all is if you all would be a part of the presentation itself, or if you can phone in as a member of the public to make any comments about the annual report, or be a part of the actual presentation, or even be in the building when we do the administrative committee. And then we'll know more about the board meeting as well. That'll take place in April. So you can expect communication from us on those regards to how you can participate in that. All right, excellent, thank you. All right, next up we have Brown Act, Sherry.
Hi, Sasa. Hi, everybody. Let me share my screen. Okay. Everyone can see? I can hear a tiny bit of echo of myself, but I can ignore that if it's not annoying to anyone else.
And I believe everyone has a copy in their packets as well.
Perfect. Okay. Just a little bit about me. My name is Sherry Hani-Zavara. I am a colleague of your attorney Josie's here. I'm a principal deputy. I've been with the district for a little over 10 years now. And like some of you, I started out as a bio major, actually interned here at the district many years ago. And now I am back as an attorney. So I wanted to talk a little bit about government transparency. I know some of you have heard this from me last year, but for some of you, this might be new, but you work for community groups that may already be familiar with the Brown Act. So I'm going to give a little bit of a bird's eye view. Please remember, as you may already know, the Act is pretty complicated. So if there are questions that arise, we can talk about them, or if you think of them later, you can feel free to submit questions to Josie or Sessa, and they can respond or I can respond. So let me actually turn the presentation on. Okay. So I'll dive into the background a little bit more. The Brown Act was adopted in 1953 for purposes of ensuring that public commissions, boards, councils, and other public agencies in this state take actions and conduct their deliberations openly. So here's a little bit of that legislative intent. The people of the state do not yield their sovereignty to the agencies which serve them. The people, in delegating their authority, do not give their public servants the right to decide what is good for the people to know and what is not good for them to know. The people insist on remaining informed so that they can retain control over the instruments that they have created. So this is a kind of by the people, for the people type of act. So we're going to talk about applicability a little bit. What or who does the Brown Act apply to? So this applies to legislative bodies of a local agency. A legislative body can be like our governing board, which consists of members that are appointed according to specific requirements in state law. It includes things like city councils, boards of supervisors, school boards, all sorts of groups that I think a lot of you, it sounded like, have probably attended before. It can apply to appointed bodies, so an advisory body like this, planning commissions, other subsidiary types of commissions that are created through some sort of formal action of the governing body. If you've been around the district before, you know we have some standing committees like Technology Committee, Mobile Source, Administrative, etc. And you've seen the Brown Act in action there. We take public comment and we conduct deliberations in public. There are some exceptions. So sometimes we just need a committee to meet and decide about like one thing, whether it's to put out a report or do something like that. It's less than a quorum of the legislative body. So, it could be, let's say, for instance, we need like 3 of you to get together and put a report together. That's an ad hoc committee. It serves a limited purpose. Once that purpose is over with, you've produced your report or whatever it is you're working on, that committee dissolves. So to get those things done, we don't want to have a lot of holdups. So those kinds of committees can meet without adhering to the Brown Act requirements. So When does the Brown Act apply? It applies during a meeting of a legislative body. And what is a meeting? This is probably the most important slide. A meeting is a congregation of a majority of a Brown Act body getting together at the same time, location, to hear and discuss and deliberate or take action on any of the items in their subject matter jurisdiction. So, before I get into the different kinds, which are regular and special, this here is a congregation that we're having of a quorum of the YLAC members. And again, to discuss, deliberate, and take action. You voted several times now on different items, approving the minutes and the reports and things like that. So there are two kinds of meetings, or at least two common types. We have regular meetings and special meetings. This, what we're having here, is a regular meeting. It occurs at dates and times and locations that are already determined in the past. You know, like last year, I'm not sure how it works for this committee, but in some other committees, they decide in December, next year we're going to meet these 4 times next year, these dates, etc. So it's already set out and we know when we're going to meet. A special meeting, it's called when either the presiding member of this body or a majority want to discuss something really discrete, and it's sort of an emergency. They need to do it quickly, and they need to take care of some kind of business. I'm not sure that would apply here. It typically doesn't apply to any of our advisory committees. It most often applies to our governing board. So let's say there's a last minute event. For instance, the fires several weeks ago. Maybe they need to get together to meet to, I don't know, purchase certain masks or something for the community. I'm making that up, but you know, that's something that needs to be done quickly. We can't wait another month for that kind of thing to happen in public. So a special meeting is a public meeting, but different noticing requirements, which we're going to discuss shortly. Let's see. So there are a couple of things, there are several types of meetings that don't count as a Brown Act meeting. So individual contacts, you and another YLAC member go have coffee and chat. That's not a Brown Act meeting. That's not a quorum of you. It's just 2 people, 2 friends, 2 colleagues getting together to talk. Let's say all of you attend a conference. The conference is put on by another organization, but you all want to attend. So it is a quorum of the YLAC group. But if you can attend and only engage in conference-related matters and not discuss YLAC amongst yourselves and have sort of a side secret YLAC meeting while you're there, then you can attend the conference without having to notice that the entire YLAC is present at that location. Same applies for community meetings. A quorum of you can go attend a community meeting, as long as, again, you don't congregate and talk about, you know, items on a YLAC agenda. You're there only to talk about that particular community meeting. Ceremonial sort of meeting, you know, if you all go to I don't know, sometimes we do like first pitch at a baseball game or something like that. Again, a quorum of the members can attend, but don't get together and congregate. So the individual contacts, which is sort of the one-on-one discussions, I'll talk a tiny bit about that right now because it's important and it's the easiest one to kind of, well, not the easiest, they're all kind of easy to, there's a fine line, right, between congregating and then just being in the same space to talk about a different subject. But with respect to individual contacts, what we want is for you to, of course, you're here, you're networking, you're meeting new people, you want to be able to meet up and discuss, you know, certain kinds of issues or engage in conversations. Or let's say you have a question for Sessa, for Walter, for Josie, you know, you might send them a question and communicate back and forth like that. You know, just the 2 of you or just you and staff, that sort of communication is okay. You know, you should be able to do that sort of thing and get information that you need to make informed decisions. But what we want to do is avoid what's called a serial meeting. Just sort of the bird's eye view is a serial meeting is lots of these individual meetings in a row that combined look like you had a Brown Act meeting, but you sort of sidestep the requirement to make it public. So what that looks like is there's two different kinds. There's daisy chain and there's hub and spoke. So a daisy chain is an impermissible kind of serial meeting. In that kind of meeting, let's say one of you calls up another member. So member A calls up member B to talk about an item on the YLAC agenda. Then member B calls up member C to tell them what they talked about with member A, and so on down the line. You all discuss the same thing, but in separate phone calls or emails. Basically, you've all just had a Brown Act meeting because you've discussed the same item, but you've just kind of done the sort of game of telephone with it. The other kind is hub and spoke. So there's a couple different scenarios here. You don't have to memorize all of these. But, member A is the hub, let's say, and they contact members B, C, and D. So they're sort of doing the same thing as before, but they're the central hub and they're making all the phone. They're making sure everyone on the committee knows, oh, I'm going to vote this way for this item. How are you going to vote? Let's see, in the second scenario, you might have someone else as an intermediary. So member A tells the intermediary to call up all the different members. Basically, what you want to do is avoid talking about the agenda items here in a way that makes it seem like, you've all reached a consensus on how you're going to vote on something before you already, even got here. The purpose of conducting these meetings in public is that you deliberate, you share ideas, you take the public's comments into consideration also, and then you do your vote. So the side conversations and things like that, we try to avoid. This applies to not just in-person gatherings like today. It applies to emails and text messages. So it can get a little tricky. But when using any kind of direct communication, like your text messaging, just be aware that you're not, you don't start a group text or a group email chain that's like, YLAC members, and all of you are on it responding to each other, talking about YLAC items. So it's basically like you've already discussed the issue, but you've done it on text message and no one in the public can see it. It's things like, as I said, the text message, group chat, things like hitting reply all. So let's say someone sends you the agenda for the YLAC meeting. I would caution against then hitting reply all in case, everyone else is already copied there and starting a discussion. Because again, you're veering into talking about the public's business via email instead of at the meeting. Just a side note, actually, no, this doesn't apply. The text messages in the Public Records Act. I don't know where this would come into play here. Maybe it does apply, but I can't think of a good scenario. But let's say for the governing board of the AQMD, let's say they're conducting a group chat, and they've already all said, I'm voting yes on this rule or I'm voting no on this rule in the chat. If you talk about work-related things on your devices and you're doing it like that, where you should be doing it in public, that sort of thing could be subject to Public Records Act, and they can get your phone and someone can access your text messages to see like, hey, this was the work-related stuff that you were talking about, what you should have been doing in the middle of a meeting. So social media is the same kind of thing, but maybe a little bit tricky because it's uncharted territory. Like I said, the Brown Act was developed in 1953, and even though it gets updated and amended quite a bit, social media is pretty tricky. So Assembly Bill 992 amended the Brown Act. So they can, members of a legislative body, you can all kind of be on the internet and engage in conversations with the public on the internet. So like Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, well, not TikTok, but whatever, etc. To like answer questions or engage. The problem is, let's say someone makes a post and then you're all in the comments commenting on the post and it's something within the YLAC subject matter jurisdiction, like you're all, you're kind of having that meeting without the benefit of, being in this open space and deliberating in this way. Maybe it looks public, as I think through it, but it's something you want to avoid. You want kind of the guardrails of the Brown Act to protect those conversations. You don't want to have all of that conversation on Facebook where maybe not everyone can even access your social media and it's not publicly noticed. There are weird things in there like, hey, what if someone posts something and like all of you hit like? Is that an indication that, let's say someone posts, we're discussing this in YLAC and I'm gonna vote to approve this report this way. If everyone hits like, does that mean they're all going to vote to approve it that way too? It's a gray area, but I would avoid, engaging in those kinds of discussions or interactions as well. We'll talk a little bit about notice. Am I doing okay on time? Maybe. Okay. So again, the public has to have a way to find out how these meetings are taking place. Let me see where I am in my notes so I don't leave anything out. You have to post an agenda that advises the public of the meeting, all the matters that are going to be discussed. So Sess has been doing an amazing job of going through the agenda. All of that was public before this meeting, and it was published a certain amount of time before the meeting. So anyone from the public can read that agenda and know exactly what's going to happen today. For a regular meeting, those have to be posted 72 hours in advance in a location that's freely accessible to the public. It has to be accessible 24 hours a day. So that's why if you come into the district, you see that bulletin board outside. It's got, depending on what, when meetings are happening, it's got the different meetings and agendas there so people can come see in case we're closed. You can't just post it online because that assumes everybody has access to the internet and we can't assume that. So it's, we generally post it online and then we have it in a public space that people can come see. What else do I want to discuss? So we talked a little bit about this. Again, we want documents to be accessible for public inspection. So, if there's this annual report, for instance, that you guys approved, if a member of the public wants to come and get a copy of that to see what it is that you're approving, that should be available to them. Again, we have hard copies of a lot of our agenda items in the, I don't know if you've gone in to our governing board auditorium on the side wall. There's just tons and tons of papers. Those are all the different agenda items, and you can find, presentations, you can find, rule reports and things like that. Special meetings, those are the ones that are, again, I mentioned sort of on short notice. I used the example of the fire. That only needs the 24-hour notice, not 72 hours. You only discuss that one issue. You can't discuss anything else at that meeting. So it's a little more restricted, but it's there in case you need it to discuss something really quickly. Non-agenda items, basically, I think the general rule of thumb is if it's not on the agenda, you can't discuss it. As Essa mentioned, there will be a public comment period at the end of this meeting where people can touch on items that weren't on the agenda, but that are still within the purview of this committee. So same subject matter. If there are emergencies, again, this is typically, I don't even think committees will do this. It's mostly the governing board. I can't think of the last time there was an emergency that required bringing something up that wasn't on the agenda, but the majority of the members present determine that there's two-thirds are present. They determine there's need for immediate action on something. It's really urgent. Then they can discuss it. Or they can discuss something that was continued from the last meeting. They didn't finish their discussion and they need to finish it in public. Let's see. There can be times when a member, you might go comment on a rule, or someone from the public might come here and comment on either the report or the minutes or something like that. They might have questions that need to be clarified. There's a fine line, so, staff can respond or people can talk about it, and, there can be some back and forth with the committee, but not, don't get off topic. Just make sure, if it's a clarifying question someone has, someone clarifies it. Just kind of keep it short, keep it tight, and try not to get off topic. Sometimes a member of the public might have a question for staff. Again, clarifying questions are probably best. Because again, what we want to avoid is getting into a very substantive, in-depth discussion of something that wasn't publicly noticed. Because it could have been that someone saw the agenda and didn't come because the thing they wanted to talk about wasn't on the agenda. So we don't want to then bring that thing up and they didn't have notice of it. So public participation, we've been doing this today. So everyone has to have an opportunity to comment on every agenda item before any action is taken. Again, that's so the members of the committee here can hear what the public has to say, maybe take that into consideration before they deliberate. Maybe a member of the public has some facts that you didn't have before. Again, the topic of that conversation should be within the subject matter. It should relate to the agenda item, or if it's in the general public comment section of the meeting, it should be at least something that you guys would discuss normally. It can't be something so off topic that you would never discuss it. There can be time limits on public comment, because otherwise, it can take a long time, and we also do want to take some action. So reasonable time limits, sometimes time might be cut down depending on how big the meeting is or how controversial the item is. Not so that we can snuff out public comment, but because we want to hear everyone's comment before we make a decision. Teleconference locations, you guys did a great job on this. There are certain circumstances where you can't be at the meeting, but your location needs to be noticed so that the public can attend at your location. So if I'm a member of a committee and I can't attend, and I know I can't attend way in advance, and I'm taking the meeting from my house, then my home address is published on the agenda and my door is open so people can come make public comment. It doesn't happen very often, but I've heard that it's happened once or twice, where board members notice their home location and then someone's shown up at their home to make that comment. There are certain things that you can talk about outside of the view of the public. These are things that you kind of have to talk about freely, and you don't want to, for instance, have the public comment because it's not something that's ready to be commented on, or you're discussing things that you don't want to kind of give away yet. You have to fall into specific categories. There's only a limited number of categories that you can talk about outside of the public. And it's things that you would guess, like litigation. Sorry, my mailman just dropped mail and it's really loud, so I hope that didn't translate over video. So we don't want to give away our litigation strategy in public. If we're in the middle of some sort of litigation, everybody's watching. We don't want to say what our next move is, say what the board is going to authorize us to settle, a case, or how much, or what moves we're going to make. Certain kinds of labor negotiations, before they're completed, we want those negotiations to be free, and we want to be able to talk about them. And there's some element of privacy required. So things like that you can talk about outside of the purview of the public. But closed session, we've only ever applied that to our governing board. None of our committees or advisory councils meet in closed session. So just something to know. So the pandemic had a huge impact on public meetings. At the beginning, we were all meeting online. Everyone was on Zoom. So there were different kinds of rules. I won't go through all of them. Some of these aren't even, I guess, necessarily applicable anymore, but some have kind of held over since then. So let's see. Again, remember, if you need to participate remotely, you have to notice your location unless it's an emergency or you have just cause. Depending on your circumstances, it's something I'd recommend that you reach out to your counsel here, Josie, to discuss and ask, because there are different requirements for each. But, it could be a family emergency. It could be that you legitimately can't make it here for one reason or another. There are certain requirements where you do have to appear on screen, though, still, but you don't have to notice your location. So if you're home, it's emergency. You don't want people coming into your home, but you still want to participate in those limited circumstances. And for limited numbers of times a year, you can do that. So there are penalties for violating, this is the last slide, violating the Brown Act. And I think the biggest one, at least in my opinion, is if something's not on the agenda and you discuss it and then you vote on it, that action can be voided or nullified. Again, you got to do all the things that you said you were going to do, and you can't do more than that in the agenda at these meetings. So you want to make sure everything's kind of laid out ahead of time, and it's a little bit of a rehearsed song and dance to some extent in the, at least in the respect that everyone knows what's going to happen at a meeting. So I've included this last slide, which has a lot of different links that you guys can use. It sounds like you guys got a copy. I believe the links should work if you're using an online copy, and that should be it. So any questions or anything, I'm happy to help answer.
I'll just add that if you do have any questions as meetings come up, especially like a last minute situation, or ahead of time before the agenda goes out that you want to participate remotely, you can contact Heather and she'll relay the questions to legal if it pertains to legal. So.
All right, I would call for any public comment.
Run in the room.
No hands raised online. So there's nothing to approve other than so grateful that she came and educated us. We're down with Brown. We're down with Brown.
Thank you guys for having me.
I just realized what I said. Okay, cool. Excellent. Thank you so much, Sherry. Thank you for being here. Also, we just wanted to recognize we have several returning members of YLAC who've stayed on for an additional year. Gabriella, Emmanuel, Lynn, Ty, Roxana, Andreas, Vanessa, and Joshua. And so I wanted to read to you all a certificate that is coming in the mail. The mission of the Young Leaders Advisory Council for South Coast AQMD is to educate and engage young adults regarding the region's clean air issues, and at the same time, to garner from them greater insight into their generation's concerns, values, and priorities about air quality to their peers and others. In recognition of your exemplary leadership and steadfast dedication to driving meaningful change at South Coast AQMD through the Young Leaders Advisory Council. Your partnership and advocacy have profoundly influenced our agency culture by significantly strengthening cohesion, enhancing the growth of staff and engagement of YLAC members, and modeling what inclusion means to all of us. So thank you all for returning. Thank you. And so, so that check is in the mail, but it's a certificate. All right, excellent. So I'm going to turn it over to Cassie and to Heather, who's going to talk to you about the materials you all received and expense plans.
Hi, everyone. So I'll go first. So with you, you should have all picked up, a number of resources, but specifically 2 copies of books. So The Color of Law and From the Inside Out. So these books were chosen for you specifically because they really do help deepen our understanding of what structural inequities and what also government policies can do to communities and how they shape communities moving forward. So The Color of Law really gets into the issues of redlining and what it looks like and how it played out throughout entire regions. So why there might be disparities of environmental injustice in certain communities. And that is particularly important for the work that we do, especially within our division, because we deal a lot with community air programs. Some of these regions are really shaped by what was historic redlining in these communities. And so we do feel like it's important for you to know that. And it kind of goes over how that happened. But skill energy comparison in from the inside out goes over the how it happens from within an institution that's maybe meant to prevent or mitigate some of that. And so it really talks about what resistance looks like from within an actual organization or regulatory body. And so that one I think is important for you all to know because you all really are, most of you have, when you introduce yourself, are already in this role of advocacy. And to know what policy plays out like and what it looks like within a regulatory body and an agency, I feel like that's really important for you to know, especially when you interface with staff who are maybe the most well-intentioned dealing with levels of resistance. And so knowing what the resistance looks like and knowing what it does to staff and the people working in the advocacy sphere, I think is paramount to you all in your journey as advocates for your problem. So we really do hope that you enjoy these. For those of you that are returning members, these are entryways to open dialogues with other people. Share them. These are valuable resources, I think, for you to know and to dialogue about with the people around you.
Can I also chime in? Yeah. And we're trying to get both of them to come.
Yes.
As a speaking engagement here at South Coast. This has profoundly changed how we do the work, in particular, the color laws I mentioned to you all before. But from the inside out is really insights to how government work and how sometimes even within the government, there are blocks that are done by other folks around environmental injustice. And so it isn't always the people who you think are against you that can somehow kind of put blocks up. So that book was very insightful on like how to navigate that kind of stuff. So we really thought, especially during this time, we might benefit from hearing from those authors. So we've done the reach out, and so we're just waiting to hear back. So let's hope we have a good announcement at the upcoming meeting that we're bringing them here to the agency. Because somebody know them and say, "Oh yeah, they do it for free." I'm like, huh? All right, Heather.
So this is important work, and we don't work for free. So we do want to compensate you for your time, your expertise. So if you are on site, you are going to be filling out a mileage claim. For the folks online, I'll be sure to be providing these documents as well. So for the mileage claim, you're going to be filling out your name, the home address, street address, the city, the address of headquarters, the city of headquarters, how many miles between home and headquarters, and then under the little grid section, you're going to need to put the date of the meeting, travel time to South Coast AQMD headquarters, the miles it takes you to travel, and the purpose of the trip, which is YLAC meeting. And in the second line, you're going to put travel home. So we pay you for your time coming here or your mileage coming here and for returning. And I will be sending out pre-filled documents home. If you'd like to fill it out today, you can. For the mileage claim, I will need a copy of a map. It's something that our finance department does require. So when I email that out, if you would just reply back with like a screen grab of something from like Google, and I'll send out a sample for you as well to follow. For the expense claim, it's going to be your permittee name, street address, city, state, and zip code. And then our office will take care of the title, office unit, and all the program codes. And then I will also pre-fill out the information for the grid, which is going to be the date, purpose, which is going to be the YLAC meeting, location, which is our South Coast AQMD headquarters, and then the amount, which is $100. Everyone, every member that's participating gets the stipend. The only people participating in person get the mileage claim. Now, moving on to the additional documents. In order to pay you, we do need to have some documents returned to us. So it's going to be the Form 590, the W-9, and then a direct deposit if you would like that. If you would prefer a regular check, you don't need to fill that out. Before you guys leave, I recommend you guys check in with Carolina Vargas just to make sure everything's correct so that we can send it through. I do want you guys to note that, like, there are two things you can't rush in this world, any government process and toast. It's done when it's done. So it does take time to do. So please do be patient, but the checks will come. But they come faster as long as all of that information is up to date and correct. The last item I want to bring up is the photo release form. We'd like to have your consent to use your image. We do share all of our updates with our administrative committee. And we would like to share a photo from today to our admin committee, showing them all of the passionate young individuals that we have in this room today.
Can I just add one thing? What Heather was saying is that the stipend and then again is for members of the YLAC committee. And so if you do have members of the public coming or participating, they're not eligible for that.
Okay. All right. Is there any public comment on this item?
None in the room?
No hands raised online?
Awesome. All right, thank you so much. And again, how do I say it? Knowledge is power. I think other folks have said it as well. So I guess what I would say to all of you all, if you choose to read the book or share the book with someone else, that it was documented in a book or books, to me indicates that it has happened before. And it gives me some strength in knowing when you can have quotes from Frederick Douglass or Audre Lorde or Dolores Huerta or even Cesar Chavez, like that are from 40 years ago that are relevant today. That meant that this has happened before, right? And I'm not trying to belittle anything to the experiences that we all are having today, but I'm kind of taking some comfort, some knowledge in, if someone wrote about it and documented that 60 years ago, 70 years ago, 80 years ago, this is happening with some purpose that it happened, like, let's learn from that. And the fact that we haven't learned about it in school is an indicator, because people don't want you to know your history, or that people are trying to erase it or that kind of thing. So again, there is some knowledge I think that can come from the books and the resources, share it with others. And like I said before, we're going to try to be bringing them as well. Excellent. Thank you. All right. So this is the time for y'all talk, because I'm good talking. And so this is the time in our meeting where we set aside time for community spotlight. So this is an opportunity for you to elevate or spotlight any issues or concerns or events that you'd like to share within your respective communities, anything like that. So, raise your hand virtually or in person. And then we'll give you the floor to be able to share anything that you'd like to elevate to everyone.
I'd like to begin. So there was a lot of regional concern with the fires recently, and one thing that I found reflected among various of my communities and the classrooms that I teach in and the communities I work with was there has been an increase in conversation about mistrust with air quality indicators. And I've gotten the chance to deliver different workshops and presentations by my own will to help clarify some misconceptions about how indicators like the air quality index are determined, but I've noticed people want more answers, particularly when it comes to air toxics that arise from fire events. And I think this is an issue that should be discussed more, especially since there's a lot of important government resources being changed, particularly from the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. And I think it would be prudent to provide resources that are accessible to people of different literacy levels and in different languages to ensure that everyone is able to make informed decisions about when to go outside or whether to give their child a mask when going to school. So this is something that has come up for me quite frequently, and I definitely think it's worth being proactive about, particularly since there's already mistrust in government institutions and scientific information. I think there's a need to be able to provide some sort of public awareness outreach, but also resources for educators to be able to foster these conversations with their own classrooms and the parents that they interact with. So that's an issue that I wanted to highlight. Next question. Yes.
So knowing that there is mistrust, knowing that sometimes people will talk science at people and not engage with them or think that they don't know enough to be able to understand, and they'll blame the receiver of the information and not the speaker of the information. What would help to engage community folk to these conversations? Like, yeah, like what would get people to do some trust building? What would get them to do that?
I think the first part is empathy, recognizing that a lot of people were concerned and scared when they looked up and saw the sky was all kinds of weird colors, and not knowing that there's a place where they can have answers. And I think that there was no agency, no individual that was able to give precise information as to what specifically was in the air, at what concentrations, at what time of day. But even just recognizing that we don't have that information helps build trust, saying we don't have the answers right now, but these are the mechanisms in place that can help us develop these understandings in the future, and recognizing that there is still work in progress happening. And then going back to the prior point about empathy, asking people, how are you feeling? What have you heard so far? And allowing the public, whether it's, a middle schooler in their classroom or one of my students in at the university I teach at, is like asking, what have you heard? And starting off there, and then being able to address concerns on a more individual level, rather than trying to provide blanket statements that can overwhelm people with information that they're not interested.
I think I'd like to piggyback kind of off that. Recently speaking to people, especially because of the fires that were going on, Riverside, all of our pollution is like transported. And so this is a reoccurring problem, especially in the winter with the accumulation of pollutants. But a lot of people with respiratory issues like asthma, they really see their symptoms worsening, or people who have other respiratory issues are always like, my throat hurts or it's hard to breathe. And a lot of people don't really know why, but it's kind of clear that these are air quality related issues. And, monitoring all pollutant, or you can't monitor all pollutants at once. It's really hard to do, but after the fires, there's a professor at UCR who has a monitor station for lead, and there was a huge spike in lead that was transported from the fires. And all of this goes to say that we do need more outreach on how to protect yourself from these events, and what to do if you are feeling respiratory issues when you go outside. And also, I think there is the AQ spec program here. I'm not sure if there's any look at available air filters. So I bought an air filter off Amazon, just a small one in my room. Is there a way to show that these actually are working and reducing your pollution burden inside? And also notifying people, when to stay inside or when they should wear masks outside. Not just because of, fire events, but year round, especially in winter when we do see AQI spike or spike in the accumulation of pollutants.
I have a question for everybody, right? So I am not young. I don't pretend to be, but I ain't as old as y'all think I might be. Okay. And so I remember how I used to get my information about things, right? And so my question to you all is, where do you get your information from? Like, who do you trust when it comes to getting this information? Is my question that I pose to you.
Like community.
Community, like community leaders, or just, what do you mean?
Neighbors. Friend, family.
Gotcha. Go ahead.
I'm one of those people who can like be chronically like online, on social media, and I just follow a lot of that's just my nature to follow a lot of like local groups and grassroots folks and just everyone. And so I just see like kind of like the plethora of like information in there. But then I also personally also check, the information as well that's being shared.
So even though you might see it on social media, you still might critically analyze it.
Yes.
That's.
I think even trusted groups on social media. Like for myself, I was following a lot of Eastern communities for environmental justice. Like I knew that the information they were receiving was safe and sound or active SGB, and so I may not trust, or there may be a lack of trust between government, but when working with those who already have the trust of the people and working with them hand in hand.
Okay. Cool. Thank you. The reason why I asked, because you're bringing it up as well, and we both kind of mentioned things. I definitely understand the social media aspect. A friend of mine introduced me to this one guy. I ain't gonna say his name. I don't know what you're talking about. But he did this thing where he could talk on social media, and then he shows like the camera of somebody else behind them. So like the other person is real big, and then he's like, "Did you hear what he just said?" Da, 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 da. And I was like, I didn't understand that concept. But what got me was he was able to show old video that someone had posted, like say in October. And this person in October was saying all these different things, and then now was like, we all need to come together. And we can't, and it's like exact opposite of what he had said back in October. And I was like literally, like people were like getting likes and followers and all this stuff, but it was not, it was just, he literally talking out of both sides of his mouth. And so it really just got me like, if people don't trust, like what can we do to even combat that? And so there are people out there who are literally putting misinformation out there. Like that's the goal, is to put a lot of misinformation out there. So I think that's kind of, I think there's an awareness around that. So that's why we want to ask, where do you get your information from? Because then that's how maybe we need to start partnering with people to be able to address some of these mistrust issues, is to work with those groups and not just say, okay, well, we put it on our internet. A lot of people put things on the internet that doesn't make it accurate. So
I just wanted to add to that. I think, when you look at, and this is maybe a good indicator, when you look at, let's say, an elected official page or like y'all folks' pages, like you might not get as much engagement, but like I think to your point, really partnering with those folks, those groups who are really engaged and have a really good pulse of the community, can go a really far way. But I think, just building it, because and I get it because I also come from that side of the world. It's like people get uncomfortable or they're not unsure, and by all means, they have every right to feel that way. So, like, how do you build more like a rapport relationship?
Yeah, absolutely.
Roxy also has her hand raised online.
Go ahead, Rox.
Hi, yeah. So I know what you're talking about. Those types of videos, those are what we call influencers.
Yeah.
Those are people that just kind of go on the internet, spew whatever they think comes out, whatever. Then they change their mind, like the second they become unpopular or they become too popular or something, right? So I feel like what kind of helps navigate what information to take with like a grain of rice or a grain of salt is to find reputable sources of like community journalists, community like even some like newspapers are kind of wishy-washy sometimes, but to find like those types of groups, like someone mentioned EJ groups online, those I feel like are pretty good reputable sources of information, because why would they lead the community astray from something? And also, I mean, fact checking online also comes a long way, because there's all these things online, especially like Facebook, if people still use that, I don't know, where people just post up all these things and it would legit come out saying like this has been proven to be fake, but since people, the evil minions took over, that thing does not come up anymore. So I don't see that as a coincidence, but you know, so yeah, just Google is free. It's like the information is legit at our fingertips, and you know, anything that might sound kind of off or might feel like, is this real? Just Google it. And yeah, you'll find all these articles stating why yes or why not. And I feel like that does come a long way. So don't just, you know, repost to repost. That's what I always tell people, because sometimes misinformation is really harmful for people in the community. So like I'm gonna give you an example. Like a lot of ICE raids that were happening out in the community, people kept reposting, oh, I see this, I see that, but without actually sharing a photo of this vehicle that they claim they saw. So a lot of it became, you know, I don't believe it. Can you show us proof? So after that, a lot of those what is it called? Those like, oh, sightseeing of them kind of went down. So I feel like, yeah, definitely always look for proof, ask for proof for anything. Just because, yeah, you can't take word of mouth for some, like, for some people anymore, unfortunately.
Thank you. Thank
I just want to play devil's advocate on like the social, like using social media as like your information tool. There's a lot of short form entertainment that we like. So people look to that, you know, so they'll get misinformation from those short form formats, you know, and they think it's legit, but it's not. I think people just want a place to vent, you know, into the comment section. Sometimes, you know, you get a lot of good information from those. But how do we collect that data and like actually try to make change with it? That's like the issue, I think. I wanted to shout out an event that's going to happen at Cal State San Bernardino, and it's this group called the People's Histories IE. So it's pretty much they're accepting proposals, and from people, some of you guys who are in school, like if you guys have a perspective on like whatever region you're in, I guess if you're from the Inland Empire, it would be San Bernardino County. I proposed something and hopefully it gets accepted, but I'm literally talking about a grievance project and how people will show up to public comment, but just to vent and just to express frustrations. But then what do we do with that? How do we take that to the next step instead of just bleh, you know? So yeah, I just want to shout out
So
the
they're
event.
doing a call for proposals right now, this People's History of the IE. So our team, if we can make note of that, so we can share that maybe with our AB 617 team as well, and it's Cal State University, San Bernardino.
Yes.
Other things that people like to elevate in the community spotlight time?
Before we move on from this online discussion, I think one of the most helpful things that we as people who have this platform and who are able to be in positions of decision making and have access to education, one of the best gifts that we can share with our neighbors is that agency to be able to make decisions and come to conclusions on their own. And I think, especially with emergencies like fires, there are just situations out of your control at the end of the day. And being able to give people a semblance of control and agency by instead of telling them, oh, the air quality is, you know, at certain degree today, instead show them the tools that they can use to come to those conclusions on their own. I think that having worked with environmental justice groups in LA for a few years, I found that is one of the most powerful ways to help rebuild trust, particularly when there's public-private collaborations, is giving people the ability to think for themselves. And I think that ultimately will be what is necessary to help individuals combat the flood of information that is found online. Because as several other members mentioned, some people just go online to vent. It's an open forum, public forum, but there's just such an overload of information that people are not being taught in schools or elsewhere how to fact check and the tenets of media literacy. And I think as a sister component of that, we need to be able to provide some sort of scientific literacy, even if it's just for the basics. How do I check my air quality and water quality today if I need to? And I think by providing those kinds of toolkits and guidance, it'll be able to give back a little bit more power to the individual and have them feel like we're not just talking at you as an agency or as a, as an academic or whatever, we want to enable you to come to these conclusions on your own. So I think that would be a really important step.
Thank you. Heather.
Really quick, just for the folks online, when you make comments, please state your name, just because the camera might not be able to catch your name tag. Thank you.
So I can tell Josh, would that adjust your glasses or? Okay.
Just
Okay.
glasses.
So this would be, so what I said to y'all before, is a true thing in terms of the mission of why we do this, why there is a Young Leaders Advisory Council, okay? Because there is a generational divide, right? It is a generational divide, right? And so when, you look at maybe the oldest person who works here at our agency and the youngest person, there's 6 generations, right? That's how many, like, that's how old it is from the person who's the youngest person and the oldest person working in this agency. And so how we do this work changes and should change as we interact with more people, but we know sometimes it's not the case. It's agency culture to do this. Or back in the day, it took me 25 years to be able to even speak up at work, so I don't talk, like that kind of stuff, right? And so there's a lot of that kind of generational stuff that's impacting how people receive information from folks that they don't believe are scientists, or they don't know, or you haven't learned long enough to be able to know. Except this is the reason why there's a Young Leaders, because you all have grown up in this, born of it, right? And so you offer a unique perspective. So I just really want to keep echoing that you can teach us things. This is what this council is for, is to teach us how to talk to people, how to connect with them, because we don't have all the answers. I can't make it even clearer. We do not have all the answers. And so we're talking about like making decisions about translation services. That's a big, huge conversation we've just had within our agency. It's like, what languages should we be putting information in so that people can get it? And our kind of criteria was, so who's the group of people that we would like to change their behavior? If you want someone to change your behavior and they don't speak English, you put it in that language, right? So if it's wildfire resources or whatever. And so there are people who are like, they just wouldn't think that way. So again, the more you all have ideas, we want to make it better so that there's a cross section of people who get what we're talking about, who we can connect with, who we can try to eliminate some of this mistrust, or at least put people in spaces in which they can critically think, right? Because just because somebody said they trust me, no, don't do that. Like that, I don't want that to be. I want you to literally go and check, do the research yourself. Yes. Okay. Also, any other things to spotlight going on in the community?
I'll just talk again about like outreach. I went to a community event with Peace Edge in San Bernardino, and AQMD actually had a booth there. And I thought that was a really great way to outreach. And it's reaching, people who obviously care about the community. And I don't know how often AQMD does that, but doing those sort of pop-ups on campuses at schools, I think is a great way to reach people, where you don't have to rely on social media to, talk to young people. You're going to where they are physically. And I was also at a conference this weekend where someone brought up that we have such this reliance on devices, even though, there's this whole trail of environmental impacts that each of our devices have. From the mining to the parts and devices, these precious metals. And so when we're thinking about community, we want to, sort of go away from just relying on social media and relying on their devices, and kind of bring back some, I guess, old school ways of reaching people. And I think, maybe it's a lot of work for AQMD to go out, have booths. At UCR every Wednesday, they have all the clubs out in the, the courtyard with their little booths and talking to students. But I think that's a really great way to reach young people.
To be out in the community.
Yeah.
So, there are a lot of bodies on COVID. So I don't ever want people to think that I didn't take COVID serious, or that we didn't, COVID seriously. But we had a different workforce when we could work from home. And so now that that isn't as much of a reality, it's still a reality, but it's not as much of a reality. We're getting more back into coming into the office more days than just the 1 day a week. And so what I've shared with my team is if we come into the office, there has to be some purposefulness, but then when we're out in the community, we need to be in the community. And so one of the things that the YLAC group told us last year is go to laundromats, go to the senior centers, go to all places, like go to where people congregate, not where you think that you should go. Go to where people congregate. And I will say to you, like, that's where the COVID influence has been. So much information is on social media, and people have become like, well, just kind of used to it, you know? And so this is the part where we need to go back to what I hear you saying is go back in person, connect with people, be in their space, be in their, not in their face, but be, you know, close by so that you can have those kind of authentic conversations. Okay. All right. Excellent. Thank you. All right.
I'd like to second one more thing. When it comes to university engagement, I think a lot of young people aren't aware of the great work that AQMD does, and having a presence at career fairs, especially for the Cal States, and like other public institutions, prioritizing making the agency's work and opportunities for young people to get a good training, plug into a great network and work with a purpose, I think would call a lot of people, because there's a lot of interest in helping fix the problems in our world. I think young people have seen a lot of the bad things hitting the fan and want to do something about it. So actually going and saying, hey, we're hiring for these positions or these internships, come join us, and really prioritizing going in person and also connecting with student groups, for example, environmental student assemblies that may be on campus, and saying, hey, we're going to have AQMD reps. Join us, join us on Tuesday or whatever, I think would be really, really important for visibility, and also creating a pipeline of professionals to work in air quality and community engagement. And one more thing, I want to highlight an event that my nonprofit organization and I will be hosting the second week of April for Climate Week Los Angeles. We're going to be hosting about 4 events. One of them is going to be for university students. We're going to be having a hackathon/makeathon with USC's engineering school. All university and graduate students are welcome and open to join with some prizes as well. We're also going to be having a panel discussion with the Project Management Institute of Los Angeles to discuss best practices for bringing sustainability principles into your project and leadership. And this will be culminating with a local music festival called Sound of Earth Fest. This will be held on Saturday. I don't remember what day it is specifically, but it's the Saturday of the second week of April. And this will be an opportunity to highlight the work that we do with artists to help create climate-friendly entertainment and live music events. So I invite everyone to join us if you're able to. And we are also accepting internship applications for summer 2025. So if anyone wants to work in the intersection of music industry and climate, please come talk to me after a meeting.
So a couple things. One, all the information that you all have just shared, if you could make sure to get it to Heather, right? H. Pomeroy at AQMD. We can make sure to share that information with you all. That's not violating the Brown Act because we're just sharing information. Yeah. All right. So you can get that information to folks. All right. I saw a hand up. Sorry, go ahead.
I'd like to highlight the need for sustainability related activities for both the university and high school level. As I said previously, I'm the project lead for a engineering/sustainability club. I'm a member of the Society of Professional Hispanic Engineers, and we run something called the Solar Boat Club. Basically, we build a solar boat and we take it up to Sacramento to take part in competitions. There used to be something similar in the Inland Empire LA region called the Solar Cup, run by the Metropolitan Water District, and unfortunately, it was canceled during COVID times, and it was a really good way to get high school level students to get involved in sustainability and renewable energies. A lot of hands-on activities at Occidental College, downtown LA, and Lake Skinner down near Temecula. So just the need for these opportunities for young people to get engaged, because hands-on is always an engaging activity.
Absolutely. I saw a hand over here and then I go back to Joshua. Oh, no, sir. So again, if you can make sure to send that information to Heather, we would love to, we've been talking about SHIP for a minute and would love to be able to connect. The one thing that I would just echo on all of this that you all have mentioned is not just the four-year universities, but also the two-year colleges as well, to go out and be in those spaces as well. As we see a lot of the issues are being around federal funding and the elimination of programs, universities and colleges are going to look differently, drastically differently. And so we need to make sure that we're going to the places in which everyone has access to. And I think community colleges are those places. So when we can include them in our outreach, I think that's a good point as well. Okay. All right. So I'm going to do that thing that they told me to do. Is there any public comment?
In the room? No hands raised online?
All righty. So just one last thing before we kind of get going is knowing that our mission is to do exactly kind of what we've talked about, which is get information from you all. I believe it was you, sir. What's your name again?
Alexander.
Alexander. Like you want to learn, you want to learn. So our question to you all is any goals, requests you might have for us for this upcoming year? Is there anything that you would like us to put in front of you for this upcoming year to be on YLAC? Yeah, so anything that you would like to put in front of us that you feel like you need to know for your learning, that you would want for connectivity? Do you want to hear from some groups? Do you have groups that you would like to have other groups come and talk to this group? Because we can highlight that as well. So just putting it out there. Yes.
I think it'd be pretty neat if we had like maybe a governing board member and then like speak to us and just like their experience and more of like what's the work that they're doing.
Perfect.
I think that would be really interesting.
Great suggestion. My team is just, you just see their faces all lighten up. They agree.
I have a request
Yes.
for a speaker. Can I just give you their name? His name is Jonathan Pacheco Bell. He is an urban planning professor. I think he majored in architecture, but he's on my committee for my client project because I'm in grad school right now for urban planning. And he talks about the practice of embedded planning. So pretty much being in the community with people to helping drive change. And it's action-based, and he kind of gives like a history, and it is very inspiring. So I think it would be beneficial to this group.
If you could also like get any kind of contact information to Heather, that would be awesome.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah,
Perfect.
sure.
Yeah. Other things that you all would like to do this year?
Good. I know that we talked a little bit about like tabling and community outreach, so I'm hoping that maybe we could partake in that as well.
To that point, I think having a sort of group service project or something that we collaboratively work on that we could take back to all the communities that we come from would be really awesome, whether that's talking points for the community or some sort of toolkit. And I would also like to propose a speaker. His name is Mark Lopez. He works with the East Yards Communities for Environmental Justice, and he brings a really excellent perspective to embodying activism on a truly grassroots level and lifting while you climb.
And again, contact Heather for that. Awesome. All right, great suggestions. And I feel like this is in alignment with what we have talked about with this group is it's a balance of having some education. It's a balance of elevating their voices as well. So we're not teaching you something, you all are teaching us too. So it becomes more of a symbiotic kind of network. So we can definitely work toward doing that. All right, excellent. Are there any public comments on that item?
No hands raised online?
Is there any other business? Any member of the committee has her own initiative or response to any questions posed by the public may ask a question for clarification or make any brief announcements.
I would like to take an opportunity to plug our governing board internship program for 2025. The application is live until March 7th. We also have a number of positions available open on our careers page. Please explore that. Even if it's a slightly lower position, a lot of our opportunities are promotional from within. So if it's just a foot in the door, it's a good way to get into the organization. So please check that out.
And yes, ditto on the internship. I believe it's 20 an hour.
Yes.
20 an hour.
Cap of 28 hours per week.
Per week for, and then what we've done this year is, a change from last year's internship program is because there's some schools that get out in early May, and some schools that don't get out until the middle of June. We actually have an 8-week and a 10-week program now. So the internship can be from the end of May until the beginning of August. So we've extended it 2 weeks for those folks. So I'm very proud of what we're doing with that program. Thank you all for it. Like literally, like it is the program that gives us input and then we turn it right back into the agency. And so it is like real-time feedback. So super excited about that. All right. Are there any public comments on the entire agenda?
On matters not on the agenda.
Oh, excuse me, on matters not on the agenda. Thank you. Heather,
No hands raised online.
all right, and so it's 2:30. Scary Virgo. This adjourns our meeting. Our next meeting is Wednesday, May 21st, 2025 at 12:30 p.m. Thank you all for coming. Take those extra lunches. See y'all soon. Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Thank you.
Be safe. Thank you.
You can. So for the mileage clip, when I reach out to you, please reply back. Little screen grab of how many miles it is. And I'll.
No.
No
Yeah,
word.
they'll do it.
Information.